go ahead and I have 70 slides. I'll make sure we'll go over them as soon as I can. Unit price. Unit price, guys, if whom am I going to pick on? Adam, if somebody say, come and change the service for me from 60 amp fuse into 100 amp circuit breakers. A lot of people, guys, have developed this. It's standard. It's typical. You take a panel, put another panel, remap, put circuit breakers in, remap all the circuits. So you can do this one as a unit price. So you can tell them $1,500 to upgrade you from 60 amp fuse into 100 amp circuit breaker. They call this is unit price, where they do the estimation with my work there. Where they do all the estimation and they come up with a value that, because they have done this job over and over and over again, this value they multiply by how many projects they get, and they get the estimate. So for example, like I said, service calls could be a unit price, $1,500 to do a service calls upgrade from 60 amp fuse into 100 amp circuit breaker. Another unit price, guys, they do is service. When they do a good one is power, temporary power for the construction site. Temporary power for construction site, 100 amp service. A lot of people, guys, have a wood frame that they put the panel on them, a couple of GFCI receptacle, a couple of circuit breakers in it, all mounted on a wood frame. And they put it right on the construction site. They bring it on their truck, put it on their construction site, tie it to the grid, and they use this one as a unit, another unit price, where they charge the customers for a unit price. So that's basically what the unit price is. What the book is talking about when it comes to unit price. Okay, here we go. Where did? All right, here I go. My computer. Okay. A couple of suggestions where to use a unit price: renovation, office build-outs, change orders, and other simple or small scope jobs. It has to be typically simple, small scope jobs. They also, if there's a developer comes to Burnsville and they want to build 100 residential, standalone residential dwellings, what you can do, what the contractors guy can do, is they provide a unit price for every unit. We're going to do, say each one of these units is 4,000 square foot. We will do the electrical system as a unit price for you. Everything complete, done, designed, installed, laid out for $20,000 a unit. So that's also another unit price that general contractors use all the time. Okay, unit price consists of developing an average price to install a given electrical component. Average price to install a given electrical component. Like I said, guys, upgrading a 60 amp fuse panel into a 100 amp circuit breaker panel, that could be easily a unit price. Temporary power for the construction site could be unit price. And the other thing also that could be a unit price, like I said, is developing residential. So then you take the unit price, Jeff, and you multiply by how many units you have, and you get the bid for your project. Disadvantages and advantages for the unit price. Advantages: take less time to bid the job. Maybe identical, will be installed under the same conditions. So it's we know, we have done it over and over and over again, guys. You have a unit price for, some people have a unit price for a commercial office floor. If you have a commercial office floor, guys, office floor, open office with cubicles, they have a unit price for a commercial office floor because they've done it over and over again. So easy to bid. Not suitable when outlets are not located at the standard. So the advantages, guys, is it's easy to use. Disadvantages, in order to use it properly, things have to be almost identical. Meaning, when you change a service call from service from 60 amps into 100 amps, it has to be almost identical. Otherwise, you're not comparing apples to apples. So that's a disadvantage. Luminaires building. So, for example, if you're doing office building, unit price for an office floor, and you're giving them a bid for $13 per square foot for office floor, right? And that's kind of your unit price. So if the height of the ceiling is different than typical 10 to 12 foot ceiling, guys, then that will affect your labor as they install these fixtures at a higher altitude. Okay, so here's an example. So basically, here's an example. I thought that's really cool example that they use for a single pole switch, Darren. For a single pole switch, they're not using it for a service. They're not using it for dwelling. For a single pole switch, they're using a unit price. So if you look at what they're doing, guys, they have a metal box 4x4 for the switch, a ring, one gang, EMT screws, and EMT half an inch. Jeff, they're assigning an EMT half an inch, 20 feet of EMT half an inch with this unit, with this single pole switch. And they're having a switch 15, 120 single phase, the cover, wire 12 THHN 50 feet. So they're taking all these that we use typically, guys, with a switch in a commercial using an EMT conduit with a box. They took the cost, extended the cost, the labor, extended the labor. Then they adjusted their labor here. They adjusted their material. They added the brake. They got also overhead. They added their overhead. And at the end, they came up with a unit price of $72. So $72 to do a switch in a commercial building. So what you do, that's like an opening. Have you guys, anybody have used the opening? Sometimes they bid based on opening. That's like an opening. If you have an opening, $72 for every opening, labor, and material. So count how many single pole switches you have and multiply them by 72 and got yourself unit price. Any comments, any questions? Very similar unit price, guys, ideas is the opening. A lot of people go count how many openings you have. An opening is a switch, a receptacle, a lighting fixture could be counted as an opening. Wherever you either control the circuit or take power out of the system, that's going to be your opening. So that could be one opening here. The switch is going to be another opening. A receptacle is going to be a third opening. So that's typical, similar to an opening, guys. And based on all this analysis, you can see they did the detailed method to come up with the unit price. So they came up with $72, almost $73 per single pole switch. So if you were to estimate the project then, all what you have to do is to take the 72 multiplied by how many single pole switches, you're done. You can do the same thing for also receptacles. You can do the same thing for lights. And bottom line, guys, you end up with multiple unit prices for different things in your building. So at the end there, and instead of doing the takeoff that you're doing and putting it in the software, you count how many receptacles you have, how many single pole switches you have, how many lighting fixture outlets you have, and based on unit price, multiply them by your unit price, and you get up with your estimate. Okay? But to come up with a unit price, can I get you guys to understand, you have to do the detailed method, the detailed estimating method in order to come up with a unit price. Any comments about the unit price? That's basically it in terms of the unit price. So in order to come up with a unit price, Zach, my friend, you have to do the detailed estimating method. Can you see they took off everything, the box, the screws, the conduits, the wires. We added taxes. We added material costs adjustment 15%. We added overhead, $18 overhead on the labor. So we do exactly the detail. We added even 15% profit on everything is included in the unit price. So when you tell the people, I want to charge you $72, $73 per opening, that includes your overhead, your profit, your material, your labor, your taxes, everything all sum lump. Any comments, gentlemen, about the unit price? Does it make sense? Unit price? You can make a unit price for a switch, for a receptacle. You can make it for a building. You can make it for a floor, a unit price for a floor. If your floor is, say, 4,000 square foot or less, here's what the unit price for this floor. You can make a unit price for a lot of things.
Assuming they're all standard.
That's a major thing, is if they're not standard, then the unit price is meaningless. That's assuming, I would say, if I have to dare put percentages, assuming they're 95% identical. You still have 5% you can play with. If they're 95% or higher identical, a unit price will get you there. Any comments, any questions, gentlemen? Any comments, any questions? So that's basically it in terms of the unit price. Any comments before I move into the softwares, guys? Chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8, guys, talk about software-based estimating. In this day and age, a couple of things. If you are reputable electrical contractors and who wants to bid on stadiums or sport arenas or government building, most 99.99% of the time, you will have some type of a software to do your estimation. Gentlemen, we have been lucky enough here with you to have two softwares, right? We have McCormick, and we're going to have Accubid next week. So we'll be using Accubid for the industrial project. So that's what this is. This chapter 8, Kerry, will, when you read it, that will go to your boss and convince you why should you jump up in an estimating software as a project manager. Again, it's just a couple of things. Why should we spend $10,000 to buy an Accubid versus using an Excel sheet? So that's a few common sense, guys. Estimating softwares improve accuracy. Have you guys noticed, Darren, when you guys did it by hand with me when you were linking, have you noticed how easy it is to put that stuff in the software? Serious. Did you guys see it? Did you see any linking, any extending and totaling? Everything is done in the background for all of you. So improve accuracy, consistency, speed, when you estimating the process. That's why we have a softwares. Accuracy, consistency, and speed. So it goes without discussion. So what this will do, guys, benefit leads to improve project management and hopefully increase profitability. So if you can manage fast, if you can estimate fast and consistent and accurate, that will give you better information for your project manager to manage the project, which adds up to your profit bottom line, which is your profit. This is really one of the best things that guys said about estimating. Estimating softwares, Adam, is garbage in, garbage out. You guys were you were asking me about the assemblies and items. If you're not familiar with the material, if you're not familiar with how the system is put together, meaning in order to have a switch in a commercial building, you need a box. Typically, in a commercial building is metallic box. You need a cover, you need a switch, and you need a conduit or a cable. If you're not familiar with the wiring methods based on any secret book, a software will do you nothing. So I assume, guys, not all of you are electricians. You don't have to be an electrician to do an estimator. But the more you know about the electrical work and installation, the better estimator you will be, no question asked, because you understand the method and material. Okay, but this will tell you guys replacing estimating software cannot replace judgment, experience, knowledge of the electrical installation, or knowledge of the particular installation. So just because you have a beautiful software, guys, you still have to use your judgment, and you still have to have an experience, and you still have to understand fully, if you were to become a really good estimator, the wiring methods in chapter 3 in the NEC code book. What wiring methods can I use for this project? Every project has different wiring methods, and it's really not complicated, guys. I can tell you there are 10 wiring methods that use 90% of the time. 10 wiring methods that use 90% of the time. And you guys have used them with me all the time, right? If you're doing non-dwelling, right? What do you use? EMT conduit is one of them. PVC, rigid for severe physical damage. MC cable. So these are the major ones, and PVC have 2 types, and rigid have 2 types. And so these are, I would say, 10 wiring methods used almost all the time when it comes to commercial. You go residential, of course, in Minnesota, especially in Minnesota, we use Romex. Any comments, guys, about software will not replace your judgment and your experience? Kerry, does it make sense? Yes, no? Okay. Computer estimating functions, Takeoff. This is just a few things about what a software will do to you guys, like McCormick. Takeoff is so easy. You can do the takeoff by items and assembly, exactly what we said, guys. So we have the assemblies, material prices, and labor units. All these guys have to verify it before you estimate or learn how to work and verify the assemblies, material prices, and labor units. If there's one thing, I'm sure all of you guys, when we start using McCormick, the hardest thing for using McCormick is which piece of equipment, assembly or item should I use where? And how can I find it? So that's probably the hardest thing in estimating software. The math and everything else is behind the scene. There are 2 ways of doing takeoff on a software, guys. You're doing it by hand. Jeff, you guys were using that wheel. That's also still by hand. You're measuring it with a scale, or you're using a wheel and a counter on a piece of paper, and then you're inputting the information into a computer. That's called by hand. You guys have another wheel. McCormick has the wheel and the counter that counts. That's taking off immediately into the software. So either you do it by hand, or and new tools for performing takeoff, scanning There's one of the tools that I showed you guys. So you either take off by hand and put the information in the software like you have done, or you can use the wheels and the counters that come with the McCormick, right? Or scanning. You can scan the equipment, guys, and identifying it, and then it will be identified in the software. Screen takeoff with a mouse. There's two, my understanding, and I haven't used them. There's two ways of takeoff on the screen takeoff, Jeff. One way of screen takeoff is interfacing the AutoCAD with the estimating software that you have, like Accubid or McCormick. What they guys do, all the blocks that we call them blocks in AutoCAD, the block for receptacle will be identified in AutoCAD and at the same time in McCormick. So you imported all your McCormick is capable of doing that. I'm sure Accubid is the same thing. You can import the CAD into McCormick, identify the symbols so they can talk the same talk, and then the software will go, guys, suck all this information, count. They can literally count all these components and take the measurements for your feeders and immediately input it into the software. The problem with this one, guys, is coordination between the engineering firm and the electrical contractor and sharing material and sharing the same symbols. The other one is Takeoff with on the screen. Sometimes they scan a PDF file, guys. You scan it as a PDF file. It's identified on the screen, and they do on the screen Takeoff, where you can on the screen you can count all your receptacles and your equipment. So these are the on the screen and AutoCAD interface Takeoff. What you did with your friend Chad is really called Takeoff by hand. With actually, if you use the wheels, also that's an interface. That's a little bit more than Takeoff by hand. Any question, guys, about either you take off by hand or you use the screen to take off using a PDF file or an AutoCAD file interface with the software? What I'm hoping is, as we move maybe next week, if we can get somebody from Hunt or Egan or Carson, they can show you a few takeoff or screen takeoff. It's really cool. Jeff, did you guys do screen takeoff there?
Screen takeoff?
Yeah. No? Okay. We went to Egan one time. It's really cool. They take all the stuff that you guys are doing as a PDF file, input it as a PDF file, and redraw everything on the screen and count the component directly on the screen. You don't have to redraw anything on a piece of paper. So it's really cool. We haven't done that one. Okay, accurate. So like I said, guys, Takeoff, you can interface AutoCAD. Just be aware that there's on the screen Takeoff. There's also AutoCAD interface. I know McCormick has a component, not McCormick. Yeah, McCormick has a component where you input the drawing AutoCAD format into McCormick. You identify the blocks that you're using, and the software will go there and count all your receptacles and switches and so forth. Input them into the software, assign the labor units and everything else to them, so you don't have to do the Takeoff by hand. Any comments, guys, about the AutoCAD or on the screen Takeoff that they use? The problem with AutoCAD, guys, is you go to Michette Cooley Erickson, their symbols are different than Hallberg engineers. So if your project is done by an engineering firm, it's a lot of work to re-identify all these symbols in the software. But if you have a design build and you have your own symbols, Jeff, and you can input it directly into the system, make your designers use the same symbols that the estimators are using on the software, that will be a very fast way of doing Takeoff. Okay, extension, guys. So we did the Takeoff. Like I said, you guys have done the Takeoff for the most part by hand with me or with this interface, the counter and the measure. Most of you use the wheel and the counter that we have, or you use your own wheel and counter and inputted the data into McCormick. Extension manually, guys. When you do extension manually, it's a lot of work, as we all know, and you can do a lot of mistakes. Need summed up, so that's doing it manually. Extension, if you're doing it manually, everybody knows what extension is. A fixture like this is $100. I have 100 of them, 100 times 100. That's what an extension is. So if you're doing it by hand, guys, also take a great deal of time, effort, accuracy, and hand strength, and all this good stuff. So double checking. So I'm not going to tell you doing the math by hand. That's just telling you doing the extension by hand is tedious work, and it takes a lot of time and creates a lot of mistakes. And if you have to change by hand, it's really hard. Nobody, guys, does things by hand anymore, at least an Excel sheet, at least. When it comes to an Excel sheet, guys, if you change one thing in one sheet and you did the sheet right, it carries all the way through, right? Like you did with me in the residential project, but that's still considered by hand. Here's an extension. All these extension, guys, are either done by an Excel sheet, or if you're, God forbid, you do it by hand. So you take the quantity one, the cost is 47 for a metal box 4x4. Extension is you take this multiplied by 1, divide by 100 because they hit 100. $18 for 100, 18 times 1 divided by 100 equal 0.18. Any question, guys, what the extension? What an extension is? Totaling is adding all these stuff. Extension is multiplying and dividing by the unit. Totaling is adding the hours to the hours and the dollars to the dollars. If you do it by hand, tedious, lots of mistakes. The software, thanks God, does all this stuff for you. Extension through the software, it's in the background, Jeff. Have you guys looked when you did the extension for me, when you hit the extension button? Did you see what happened? Did you see the multiplication? It's all done by software. More accurate, more less mistakes that you can do. Even in Excel sheet, you could type a cell, because most of us are not experts in Excel sheet. When you design the sheet, you could accidentally type something, a math in the sheet that screw up all your system. These softwares are done by professionals, guys. They have tried over and over again, so the math is very, very reliable in them. It takes seconds to make the corrections. You make any mistake, guys, you have seen for the extension, you can see that something doesn't make sense immediately when you do the extension. Like you have 10,000 feet of EMT conduit, 3/4 of an inch. You do the extension, you look at your extension, you can go back and correct it immediately. Much faster, more accurate. Advantages and benefits. So this is so the disadvantage, or one of the benefits, guys, of the software is softwares need to spend some time on learning them. Garbage in, Adam, garbage out. I gave you a crash course of 2 weeks of McCormick, and we're going to do a 2 weeks of AccuVid. So garbage in, garbage out. What I gave you guys, for the record, is entry level, only 25% of what the software is capable to do. To get the extra 75%, Jeff, you have to go to a training, advanced training, to get into editing the assemblies and adding more assemblies and so forth. Unskilled estimator. If you're an unskilled estimator, guys, having a software does not mean your estimate is going to be better. Hopefully, will help you find your mistake faster, but you still need to be a good estimator. How can you be a good estimator? A solid knowledge of the wiring methods in the NDC code book and the construction industry. A solid knowledge of the construction industry, different type of construction, concrete construction, building, steel, how to deal with the construction overall, guys, and a solid knowledge of chapter 3 in the NDC code book. Wiring methods is, in my book, essential to becoming a good estimator. It really is. Estimating software reduce estimating time. Like we said, there is no need for pricing, laboring, extending. All this stuff, guys, the advantage, pricing, laboring, everything is done for you. You don't have to go update the pricing. There's a service that you can update the pricing. Allow additional time. So because it goes so fast, guys, it allows you additional time to review the estimate, bid more jobs, better organize and manage the company, and more time with the family. So it cuts on your time fast. It goes really fast. When you get to know the software, guys, the project that you have, Andrew, in front of you, if you know McCormick good, should take no more than 3 hours to take off the whole project. You should not take more than 3 hours to take the project, the commercial project that we have in front of you guys. Done deal. If you are familiar with the project and familiar with the construction, it really doesn't take much. You've seen it. A lot of you guys were taking more time because we're studying it. But in real life, 3 hours is all what you need to do. What is it? It's one floor, right? One floor with power and system. So if you're familiar with the system too and know where to find them and so forth. It allows you guys also better control of material costs, generate report for the materials, bring the material on the job on phases, or type of material for pricing, ordering. And so when you have a list, Aaron, my friend, you guys were doing, you're slicing it even deeper than I asked you guys to do. That will allow you to allocate all the EMT conduit that you need for every phase, even for every system if you want. So who cares? That will allow you to manage the project much better. Bring the material whenever you need it to the job. Better control of the material, guys, provide project history to evaluate the accuracy of each new estimates. Every time you use a McCormick, you have a database for one project. Next project, guys, you can compare these data to each other. So it will make you better estimator and now analyzing the project much better. When you have 5, 6 projects guys that you ran, you have all the data about them. You can find the square foot, the labor percentage, the profit percentage, the overhead, the codes, everything. You can compare projects together in an estimating software much faster. Project management, the software makes it better for project managers. Like I said, guys, integrated with the project management system, estimating software provide the flexibility to track projects. You can integrate all the time and material, guys, all the time that needs to build the project. You can interface it with a management system and have the schedule, the construction schedule. Develop the construction schedule based on the estimated time that it needs, time and manpower or people power that it needs to build a project. So any comments, guys, any questions? We emphasize the very, very important. I emphasize from the get-go that estimating leads to a better project management and vice versa. Okay. Ease to keep field supervisor informed of current labor budget. Material update helps them to complete work. The same thing, project management, tons of information you can share at any time with your supervisor in the fields. Order material, guys, control the arrival on the job, handling time, inventory control, storage and theft. When you guys print the report for your friend Chad, you're gonna have tons and tons of report for every stage. So you can assign what time do I need all my EMT conduit to come to the job site at what stage of the job. So you don't have to store and handle and worry about theft and so forth. Reduce overhead. So reduce storage space and financing, improve billing and expedite the collection. So all this, guys, the time that when you manage your material and labor and estimate better, that will reduce your overhead, right? You don't have to have a lot of overhead to manage all these. Increase profitable businesses. Every time you go faster in your estimates, better management, you're going to have more money in your pocket and the companies. Any comments, guys? Any questions? These are common sense stuff. Adam, my friend, Andrew, Darren, any comments, any questions about these? Common sense, the increase profitable business. So your business making program and sales efforts. Okay, detailed professional bids to present to the customers. This is an interesting one. So it also shows when you guys go to your customers with a detailed estimate, it shows professionalism, it shows you mean business, you know what you're doing. When you give them $2 million on the back of a napkin, is different than we give them a detailed bid, and here we know what we're doing, we detailed it. So it shows professionalism and commitment to the project. So, okay, provide price breakdown that show the low ball bid cannot be seriously. So that's again professionalism and taking your business serious. This is another thing, guys. When you give a detailed bid to the customers, it shows them that you're reliable, you can deliver this project. All these, Jamie, all these are coupled with relationship with the customers. When parcel nectar guys go bid in a hospital, there's a hospital in town, there's 5, 6 companies that actually can bid on a hospital. So the reputation, they are known in the field, they're detailed, they have software that they can do it. So and how do they become more professional? They get all this information from the software, put it in front of the customers. Here's what we'll provide for you. That's why you have to pay $2 million for this project. Added confidence. As an estimator, guys, having a software that does all the math behind the scene for you, it gives you more confidence in the data. And give an accurate historical data for future jobs too. Okay. Any comments, guys? Any questions about the advantage of the software? Again, there's tons and tons of advantages for using the estimating software. tons, like I said, tons and tons of advantages. Pre-purchase consideration. Before you purchase, a couple of things, guys, you have to do before you buy estimating software. Usability should be logical. Before you go decide in McCormick or Accubid or uh, there's at least 5, 6 softwares that does estimating, guys. McCormick and Accubid is one of them, two of them. A couple of things before you decide. Is it logical, intuitive, simple to use, flexible, and easy to understand? These are the things that you need to keep in mind before you decide on a software. I know you guys are entry level, probably. You're not going to be deciding it, but that's, Kerry, take this one to your boss. Flexibility. You should be able to, your software should be able to, guys, be flexible, change anything in the estimate at any point easily and quickly. Both McCormick and Accubid allow you guys to change your takeoff as you do it. Accubid a little bit more, but again, I'm sure there's a lot of ways. So as you do the takeoff, if you made a mistake in the takeoff, you need to be able to change anything easily. Reports. Attention to type. Report software will let you generate. So you need the software to be able to generate a lot of reports. For example, I need a report for all coated material. I need a report for all my EMP conduit. I need to be able to report based on material, based on codes, based on price, based on phase. So, and most of them, guys, if you look at the McCormick or Accubid, most of them will get you that thing. Integration. Integration with your accounting system. I've never used that one, but it'll be interesting to ask Hunt when they come here, guys. You need to be able to integrate the software with your accounting system, because that will help you with billing and so forth. That's another thing to keep in mind. Okay, so that's the software. Consideration for hardware. You need a big computer that can run all this stuff. This is just telling you, buy the biggest, largest hard drive, fastest computer when you're doing estimating, right? Makes sense? Get the largest hard drive. You might be surprised how fast and all this stuff. This is just giving the dual hard drive system, guys, one for data and one for other operating systems. So when you are an estimator, you need to have a good computer, good, powerful computer. And the estimating, the software guys recommend certain size, RAM, and speed for your computers to run them. I've never ran McCormick or Accubid really on a whole project, but I never had a problem. The laptops that we have right now, we run Revit, guys, which is tons of data on it. We never had any problem with Revit, and these computers I believe, will not have any problem with estimating software. The problem, guys, is if you're doing on the screen takeoff, that's when it becomes very heavy, because you're taking a lot of PDF files, a lot of CAD files into the system. So you need a stronger computer. Cost of the software. A couple of things, guys. Single user license can cost you from $2,500 to $1,000 to $10,000. Multi-user, we haven't done with it. The Accubid that you guys using, it's an on the network multi-user or network version. We get it for free, lucky us. McCormick have a hardware key. Each one of you have a single license to use through the hardware key. So, but this is an estimating, an idea, Adam, when you go work for a company and say, well, how much would it cost us? $25 to $1,000. Go contact McCormick. They give deals, guys, a lot of deals to get you to buy them. Do not make the low price blindness. So this is just an advising, guys. Don't buy a software that's really cheap, because you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for, like we always say. The high price also, you don't want to go for the highest. You need to go for something that gets you what you need. Because if you have the most complicated system and you don't know how to use it, or you have no need for it because your company is not sophisticated enough, you wasted your time. Vendors, guys, offer multiple versions of the same software, Kerry, so you might have a smaller version to match your company today. In the future, you can grow and build your add more to your software. So most of them, guys, do the same thing. Technical support, on-time expense. So you have to pay for technical support and maintenance for the softwares. Maintenance, repair, and upgrade for the softwares. You have to take this into consideration. when you pick a software, all these are adjusted, guys. I know the software has been picked for you guys and all this good stuff. But if you have to pick one, make sure they have been in business for a while. You don't want a guy who started his own software yesterday and go send it to you and you bid 5, 6 jobs and they disappear out of business. So you need the credibility, like everything else, guys. You buy a software from a credible company that has been in the market for a while. So and have a good customer support through the phone and the email. Ask the manufacturer for a list of users. A lot of people, guys, before they land the software, they ask the manufacturer, again, you give me a list of users who have been using your software, Accubit, so I can call them, so I can land. If you're torn between Accubit and McCormick, for example, you can call them, ask me in Minnesota, can you give me, or in the Midwest, can you give me a list of all the users or multiple users so I can call them? They're similar to my size, electrically speaking. So I can call them and say, is it good for me? So be sure to, okay, similar sizes. And of course, if you are CA Electric, guys, 3-man shop, you don't want to compare yourself with Parts Electric or Hunt Electric. You have to talk to people your size. So that's, can I afford it? So it talks about affordability, guys. Can I afford the software? And my friend, if you're to stay in business, and you are a large size or a good size contractor, you cannot afford not to have one. If you're a small contractor, like I said, like CA Electric, guys, you can do it on the back of your truck. You're running 2 apprentices and a journeyman. But if you are a big size, Hunt, Egan, any of these companies, Design Electric, you cannot afford not to have a software, guys, in this competitive environment. This is just a few things, guys, formula to compare how much would it cost you to buy the software. I thought it's really cool. Look how they do it. You take the sales that you do divided by the cost. The sale equal cost divided by the gross profit. Look at this formula, guys. So how much must sale increase per year? You need to increase your sale per year. Now we're getting into managing and accounting, guys. Increasing your sales per year to cover a cost of $6,000 estimating software with a gross profit margin of 40%, expected life of 4 years. Look how they do it. So I have a software, $6,000. I expected life of this software is, say, 4 years. The profit is 40. And I need to say how much should I increase my sale to cover the price of this software. That's a good idea to show to your supervisor, guys. Look what they do. They take the gross per year, guys. So you take the $6,000 divided by 4 because you need to know how much it costs you per year, right? Because you're going to use the software for 4 years. So you take the price of the software divided by 4. That gives you the price per year, $1,500, right? $1,500. Then you take the $1,500 divided by profit that you anticipate you want the software to get you, which is 40%. That will get you 3,750. So Andrew, you need your company to come up with an increase in sale a year of $375, $3,750 in order to justify buying a $6,000 software. Again, we're getting into the statistics and analysis, guys. I encourage you, Darren. I know you guys are working for high-profile contractors. For those of you who don't, use this example. If they ask you, should we buy or not? How can we justify buying this software? Here's one way of justifying buying this software. I'm sure accountants have many, many other ways, guys, of coming with, is it worth it? The question, is it worth it to buy this software? Here's an example that can justify, is it worth it or not? If your profit is 10%, Jeff, then you divide by 10%. Right? If your profit is 5%, you divide by 5%. We're using a 40% profit. So you need the increase your sale of jobs a year, $3,750 in order to justify a $6,000 software. Any comments? Any question? I thought this is one of the best ones, guys, especially since we're not accountant, and just give you an idea of how they is it worth it or not? To answer the question, is it worth it or not? Any comments, my friends? Any questions? I know all this stuff, guys, is a common sense. Please read it once in your lifetime, like an entry level. Software vendor. What this will tell you, guys, you need a software vendor who's familiar with the electrical industry. A lot of when they develop a software, Kerry, they have a software engineers working directly with electrical engineers or electrical contractors or both, directly related guys. So when they build the assembly, they have competent foremen looking at these assemblies and tell them, yep, this is the most common assemblies. All the software guys have this. They have their technical support. Then they have the gurus, the software guys who design all these assemblies together. So when you want to have a software, make sure the people who develop this software, they have technical people are looking at their assemblies. What happened, Jeff, in the past, if you have a good assembly and you really want it in the software, either you build it yourself, or you can actually, if you want to share this idea with the software company, tell them, put this as an assembly, come and use assembly in your software. And they'll be more than happy to review it with their technical people because you and I agree and disagree on things. There's a lot of people, guys, same thing. They review it, and if it makes sense, it becomes a standard technical, a standard assembly, electrical assembly in their software. So this is a couple of things, guys, to ask yourself. How long have they been in business? How many customers do they have? What other software products do they sell? What's their background in estimating and electrical contracting? This is probably the most important things. Are they software engineers have no idea what construction is, or do they have technical support people, foremen, journeymen, masters who have been in the field, guys, know the material to support them? This is major thing when it comes to softwares. And another thing is every software, reputable software, therein will give you a free trial period. Every single software. They will give you a month or two to try the software for them. Training, regardless of how, so when you guys get the software, I know you have Accubid, also all of us have Accubid here, or McCormick. They have, every software company, guys, they have different 3 levels of training typically, entry level, intermediate, and advanced. So what you guys got with your friend Chad, it's the entry level in these softwares. Really know how to use them. What you need to go next, who am I going to say? Zach, my friend, when you do Accubid, you need to the intermediate and the advanced. That will get you 100% out of Accubid or McCormick. Did you guys hear me? What I gave you for the record is the entry level. That's all. The intermediate, even we don't touch it. We just jump in. You need to go to 2 more training, guys, to be really competent in this software. Arrangement, okay. So this is a couple of things, guys. It tells you, advise you not to bring the people to your house when you do training. Go to their locations. You can argue with this. A lot of contractors right now, guys, I do a lot of corporate training for code. They love to invite us to their home. So we go to 3M and I do 8 hours of code training for 3M. Why? It costs them much less for me to drive all the way to 3M than them coming here to Duncan. So I don't know, but they suggest here that you yourself or the estimator go out of their offices because they'll be interrupted in the office to their location, the training location, get your training there. Otherwise, you'll be interrupted a lot if you're in the office, Jeff, right? So that's also something to be said about that. So that's all this warning. Proper training. So this is just a warning. If you use the software with improper training, like you're doing with your friend Chad, you're going to end up with garbage in, garbage out. Like I said, we're not worried about bidding this project. We're worried about using the software and giving it our best shot. But that's a major warning, guys, is you have to get into using the software properly, and that will get you a little bit of training. Pricing service. Pricing service, anybody had to do pricing services, guys? Now remember that all the dollar values, Jeff, in the McCormick software and Accubid, somebody has to update these. The Excel sheet that I gave you guys, you yourself have to update it through your vendor. So if I can give my Excel sheet to Werner Electric, and Werner Electric will update my sheet for me. If you have a software, most of the software guys have agreement with they call them pricing services that update the pricing in your software. The interface with your estimating software program. Accubid, guys, as well as McCormick. You can go there and suck this data. You can do it monthly, or you can do it every 6 months or every year. You can update all these prices. And not only one price, Okay, you guys remember price 1, 2, and 3, and 4? 1, 2, 3. Every price is different, right? You can update all these prices. And then it's up to you, based on the knowledge of the area, which price to use. All these can be updated. So look at this is an advice for you guys. When you pick a pricing service, they update the price for you. Make sure they break it down by geographical area. So that's more accurate, because then a geographical area, guys, then they will tell you if you're in New York downtown, use price 4. You know what I mean? They'll have 4 or 5 prices, and they will tell you this price 1 is for these areas, price 2 for this areas, and so forth. So then when you're taking off a job in downtown New York or downtown Minneapolis, you could use different prices if you so decided. If you don't use a pricing service, obviously you have to contact your vendors, and they have to supply you guys with the most up-to-date pricing, and that would be time consuming. Okay, so that's so the pricing services. Accubid, guys, when they downloaded, did you guys download the 4 icons? Did you see the one that says price service? One of them say price service on that. It actually can connect you if you have the authority. It can connect you to go and update the price on this software. Database. Now Jeff is doing Accubid for Hunt Electric, he and Zach. Do you think Hunt Electric should give him a complete unlimited access to their database, all the assemblies they have developed over the years? The database, guys, should be limited to only very, very chief estimators to edit these database. You can use it, but you cannot edit it. You can add your own assembly, but you cannot go and edit the database. And not only authorized people should edit the database. The challenge, guys, is I walk in, I say, well, based on my experience, I think we should get rid of this, not knowing that this could be used somewhere else in the country. So only authorized people should edit the database. The database, which is basically your labor and material. So bids, especially large quantities, are included in the estimate. So this is just a couple of things, guys. Sometimes the conduit and the wire fluctuates faster than the pricing service can give you the latest. So you might have to also keep an eye on the copper and the steel as you bid your price. So if it sharply goes up, your estimating service, your pricing service, Jeff, might not be able to catch up with it on time for you to bid the project. So, okay. The last thing, guys, in this is frequently asked questions. Here are a couple of things for you. Creating my own spreadsheet system. So this is just talk about more. So should I create my own spreadsheet system versus software, guys? The good thing about if you're a smaller contractor like CE Electric, to tell the truth, you can't afford to have a McCormick software or Accubid. So most of those guys, what they use is they should. I think personally, I think everyone should at least have an Excel sheet. The problem with Excel sheet, guys, it gets so complicated. I showed you one example how these what was it, 19 sheets that all link together, and you guys are above average in knowledge with Excel. Imagine giving this somebody to a journeyman or master who are not good with Excel. They can easily make mistake in a cell and make a major mistake in the project. So again, you have to be qualified to work on Excel sheet. So it gets complicated. How do I handle the takeoff? So method defeats the main features of using estimating software. Manual method, guys, if you have a software, a lot of people use the, Jeff, when you guys do the takeoff, you do it with the wheel, right, and the counter. You don't do interface directly with the software. So a lot of people still don't trust the interface, the direct interface between them and the software. They trust the hands, the wheel in their hand and the counter more. But ultimately, guys, and I hope we can get Egan to do on the screen takeoff, ultimately, the goal of having a software is for you as an estimator not to touch the blueprint. You get the blueprint, you PDF them into the software, guys, and all the takeoff happen on the screen. So you have a huge screen in front of you and identify all the components, and the system will be able to count all your receptacles, assign an assembly for them, and actually you can redraw through the PDF, on the screen, redraw everything that you redraw, Jeff, for me here, you can do it on the PDF file on the screen. Then you have a record of it, and you can change it on the screen. So that's ultimately the goal the They call it direct takeoff. It improves accuracy. Again, it makes it faster for you to do the estimating and so forth. um, so here's an idea. If you're doing, guys, an on-the-screen takeoff and an estimating software, on-the-screen takeoff or CAD interface takeoff, you can do the bed with, at least based on Mike Holt's experience, 25% of the time. 25% of the time. You can do any bid 25% of the time, 25% of the time. So if you need 1 hour to do a bid, it will take you a quarter to do the same bid if you're using on-the-screen takeoff and a software. Any comments, guys? Any questions about that? Any comments? Any questions? So if you master these, guys, with big screens, it's really cool. I mean, on the screen takeoff, you have big screens and it cuts into all your your mistake. Computer does so does the software, guys, improve accuracy? Of course, computers don't make mistakes for the most part. Garbage in, garbage out, though. If you put garbage in them, they'll get garbage out. So when you put an overhead of 10%, they will calculate an overhead of 10%. But if you put by mistake, instead of 10, you put 1, you forgot to put the other 0, then it will calculate it as 1. So like everything else, garbage in, garbage out. Computers don't get distracted like you and I. If you're doing on the screen takeoff, guys, and the phone rings, it's not going to affect the computer. But if the phone rings, it will affect Jeff, especially if it's his girlfriend calling on the other line. The software improved my accuracy, definitely. Improve the accuracy. But remember, guys, software will not ever, never, it will never, guys, substitute your own experience and your own judgment. You still have to be familiar with the construction industry and the wiring methods in an EC code book and have a solid judgment in this field. Will my estimate be complete? Estimate should be more complete than any done manually. So if you're doing it by software, guys, it will be definitely much more complete than if you do it by hand or an Excel sheet. So that's without discussion. To increase efficiency, improve businesses. So the nice thing, guys, when you on Thursday when you start printing for Chad, you find tons and tons of report that you can print from Accubid and or McCormick. So you have a lot of information to deal with. Should be flexible. So must I change my method of estimating? Says estimating software should be flexible and adapt. This is really interesting. Any software, guys, should be able to edit. Jeff, you guys have your own assembly, right? You can build your own assembly and use it. Build an assembly and use it at any time. That's what the software that both McCormick and Accubid allow you guys to create your own assembly, ignore everything that they have done, create your own assembly, assign your own labor if you don't want to, and your own price to them. So that's what the flexibility that you need. So can I be proficient, guys, in the software? Like I said, you need 3 levels of training. Entry level, you got it with your friend Chad. You need intermediate and you need advanced in order to be competent enough in a software and use it professionally. Like I said, you need a training. Any comments, guys? Any questions about the softwares? So that's all what I have for you. Like I said, guys, we are using McCormick right now. We're going to be using Accubid next week. I hope with this will help you guys with this chapter and the software that we're using, help you kind of make up your mind as an estimator, and have a couple of questions for your company if or when you become the decision maker in that company. Yes, Aaron? No question. This is like an auction, man. You put your hand up, you buy. Any comments, any questions? Jeff? So that's all I have, guys, for you. I do have one more chapter I would like to go over tomorrow, and then we're done with this book. I can't find, Darren, I can't find a better and easier book talks about estimating than this book, and I've been using it for years. I really cannot find, and remember, an easier and a better, a down-to-earth language for estimating and project management than this book. And you probably guys have noticed that. Easy, short, down to the point, no dancing around. So, okay, thank you.